Hi everybody, my name is Karl Sandoval, and this video is going to be a Q and A video. I'm going to share a couple of questions and give you some answers as I have promised. So let's get started. I got a question from a viewer regarding, and I kind of get this question often, and they just want to know, would I hire an apprentice? Or, do you have any job openings? Or what's the possibility of coming to work with you and you teach me, the ropes? And, I'm really flattered when I get these types of questions because, it just shows a tremendous interest. There's a lot of interest that I'm getting out there. So I'm really excited about that. There's a lot of interest in people who want to build guitars. They want to be able to repair their guitars. They want to be able to modify, customize, do all sorts of concepts to making their instrument better, which is so cool. So, I understand where they're coming from. I was there at one point. I remember when I first started years ago, I wanted to learn this trade, so I went to a custom shop on Azusa and Arrow, and it was the original Wayne Charvel custom guitar shop. And I went in blindly and I asked him for a job, and thank God, he was kind enough to give me some work. And that's pretty much how I learned my ropes, was working there at that company, or for Wayne. So as far as hiring anybody, I really like working alone. There's so much satisfaction in being able to control every aspect of my guitar builds. And to me, that's really important. So if you send me an email, if you send me a text or a message, whatever, I will politely decline the offer of you working for me. I just do not want to partake in that right now. I have in the past, but for now, presently, no. The answer is a big no, and I apologize. Please don't get offended. I'm not trying to be a jerk off, excuse my expression, but, it's really going to take a lot for me to have people working with me again. And right now, like I say, I wear many hats. And so this one that I'm wearing right now, this is one of many, little pun there, but I wear many hats. I order my parts. I order wood sometimes on the internet. Sometimes I go down to a wood supplier. I order all the parts. I look at the guitars. I design the guitars. I think about what parts are going to go in the guitar. I do my electronics. I do all my woodworking. I do all my fret work. I do all my inlay work, etc., etc., etc. It just goes on and on and on. So there is so much that I do, and so unfortunately I am spread kind of thin, but I just like having the control of it all, and I don't mean to offend anybody or turn anybody off. If it is in your heart to pursue this career, then you will do it. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with any other videos or instructional videos or personnel, whatever. I mean, you get inspired by people, and then sooner or later you may or may not make a decision to move forward with this type of career, which is like what I did. So if it is a strong will within your heart, by all means follow your will. Don't let anybody block you. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, that you cannot do this, it's not worth getting in this field. Trust me, I've had many, many, many people tell me that, whether it be directly or indirectly, that this is like a wrong field to get into. I mean, I could name some instances that had occurred, but I don't want to be offensive, but I got some really good blows on people being very negative and just downers about what I do, and you can't make enough money and this and that. You know what? I'm here. I have a nice house. I've been blessed with a nice house. I have a car. I can buy food. I've created a job. So thank you, Lord. You know, this is where I'm at. So, you know, I apologize again if you've texted me, sent me a message or an email asking about a job. I'm sorry, I just can't do that right now. Let's go on to the next question. I had a viewer tell me about, well, he asked me, he says, you know, how do I set my truss rod on my neck? Do I, like, he called it relief. Do I put a relief on it? Well, you know, the whole idea and the concept of just, okay, first of all, he mentions a truss rod, and he says, how much relief do you put in? You know, well, there are so many variables, which is what I want to talk about real quick. First of all, how is the nut cut? What size frets do you have? How are the saddles? How are they adjusted? Are they high, low, medium? Are they like totally uneven? What's your string gauge? How do you play as a musician? Are you a hard player, a soft player? Do you bang the guitar? Are you a power chord guy? Are you a solo guy? You know, a lot makes a difference. And in my career, I've seen so many people, so many guitarists, they bring their guitars to me, and I've heard everything. I don't know what else I can hear, but I've heard it all where, you know, my action is really low and it doesn't buzz. Well, then I play the guitar and it's buzzing like a chainsaw all the way up the neck, and I'm like, well, that's not what you told me. You know, and so, you know, I've had players come to me, and you know, for the most part, I like to set the action comfortable, and there's a variety of things that you do. And sometimes if I set it too low, a musician may not like it. What have you done to my guitar? It doesn't play right. I like high action, so they get they ask for an Allen wrench, and they go to the saddles and they raise them up, and I'm looking at what they did, and I go, oh, okay, I get it. You know, so it kind of like, it's like this. As a luthier, as a career guitar builder, modifier, whatever you want to call me, you need to communicate with your customers. You really need to talk to them prior to the work that you do. So for the most part, I'll sit down, and unless it's like a stock item, like my Sandoval.V, there's a way that I built it, and I build them pretty much all the same, unless I get special requests, and that does happen. But, you know, I like to watch them play. What style of music do you play? What kind of amplifier do you run through? Do you play clean? Do you play distorted? Do you solo a lot? Do you play chords a lot? Are you a power chord guy? You know, there's just a endless amount of questions that you can think in your mind and ask your customers. So combined with that, which will take some time and effort, but it's very knowledgeable to go down that route first. And then it's not, to me, it's just not a matter of, well, do you just adjust the truss rod, or I need to adjust my truss rod? Well, my questions in my head are like, well, why are you adjusting the truss rod? For what reason? You know, and then I start hearing all these, well, it frets out, or the action's too high, or it buzzes, blah, 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 blah. Okay, before you adjust a truss rod, you need to make sure that the nut is not cut too low, and opposite, where it's not cut too high. You need to make sure that you can adjust your saddles. You need to check the scaling, the fret size. You need to check the action. You need to check if you have an underbow or an overbow. Underbow kind of slopes like this. Overbow is over. Like, I mean, that's the way I've learned it and used it all my life. But you need to ask all these questions. You need to, like, look at the guitar and, you know, just look at everything. And it's a combination of slightly adjusting the truss rod. Either you're going to make it more overbowed or less underbowed. You got to make sure your frets are topped and fret dressed even and crowned, because you want the pinnacle point to be at the center of the fret as much as you possibly can do that. You need to have your action set. It's been common where I've had a guy come to me and he picks up the guitar and he says, well, you know, I'd like it a little lower, or I'd like it a little higher, and then I make real quick adjustments. Once you get all this done, then you intonate it. And you got to make sure the strings are stretched out. You got to see what kind of gauge strings he uses. You know, there's just by looking at him play, there's so many answers you can get. And then you start like eliminating all these sequences, all these processes, until you get to the point where the guitar is the best you'd be able to set it up. Now you got to remember, a guitar is made of wood and it's made of metal. And they will move. They will shift. And do you live in a dry area? More questions to ask. Do you live in a very humid area? Is it raining all the time? Do you live by a river? Do you live in the desert? Do you live in the mountains? Is it snow? I mean, one of the things, this reminds me of something here. One of the things that really bugs me is when I see people taking an acoustic guitar to the beach. Well, do it. You can, and have fun. But at some point, and especially if you leave the acoustic in the trunk of your car, and it's 105 outside, it's probably going to be 120 inside the trunk, or maybe even hotter, and then your bridge will go, it'll just pop up. The necks will twist, they will warp. There's so many things that can happen. So, that's a whole nother story, a guitar treatment, let's call it that. But right now, I'm just trying to answer this question about adjusting a truss. To me, it's just not that. There's more to it, because I think the ultimate goal is how the neck feels, how the action feels. The action is the string height from the string to the top of the fret, combined with the size of neck that you have, whether it's big and bulky or thin, or so I hope that answers your question. I may not be able to hit on every tip or point of interest in doing this, but if you get by what I've spoken about, chances are you're going to start having a guitar that feels pretty good. And they're all going to set up different. A Gibson's going to set up different than a Strat. A Strat's going to set up different than a Tele. The Strat has a tremolo, for the most part, or unless it's a non-tremolo. Then you have the Tele, which is non-tremolo. Gibsons have a tunematic. The Fenders have a lower profile bridge. The tunematics are a higher profile. A Floyd Rose, unless it's recessed into a body, it's a higher profile. So, it's just a plethora of questions and concepts that you have to really deal with in kind of answering that, well, what kind of relief do I put on my neck? Well, if it's lower action, I have a tendency to go to a straighter neck. So I tighten the truss rod to where it's straight. And that's another thing, your truss rod needs to function. If there are occasions where at times I do have to put a slight reliever in there, but I don't really like to go radical with it, because that just kind of like messes with everything, and you can end up doing something far beyond what you really wanted in the first place. And everything is always small increments. So I hope that helps the viewer in answering that question. And I'll do a couple more, but before I proceed, let me just let everybody know that I've started my Patreon page. And the way you get onto my page is, let me put on my glasses. Old man blindness. Okay, it's HTTPS, the 2 dots or semicolon, whatever they call that, //www.patreon, patreon.com/user, USER, question mark, U, the equal sign, 1199731. So I hope I was clear enough to that. If you didn't get it the first time, just play back the video and it'll be there for you. But become a patron. That's what you're called. And it's a tremendous help for me, because what it is a small amount, based on the amount of information and knowledge that I'm sharing. It is like probably one of the most inexpensive means of being taught something that I know of. It is a monthly subscription, and but it's so small and it's automatically taken from your account. You can, I believe you can discontinue it anytime you want, but don't quote me on that. I'm still kind of new at this. You can check on that on your own. Just go on any type of a Patreon information website. But by subscribing to my Patreon page, I will feature more detailed tutorials, instructional videos regarding the different steps on how I fabricate, repair, and build a guitar and everything that's related to that. So, but there's another cause that will help me, and that is my blades get dull. I run out of sandpaper, glue, thinners, paint. My tools are I have tools that I've had since the mid-70s. They're showing some wear and tear, whether they're wood files, metal files, screwdrivers. I've had to upgrade my drill a couple of times, and everything is like, it's time. So, you know, by all means, please subscribe to my Patreon channel. Go back to the video and use the URL that I quoted you, and sign up. I would greatly appreciate it. It would be a tremendous help. So, you know, if you do, thank you. For all the contributors that have contributed on my PayPal, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It has been, I use my email address, Karl@karlsandoval.com, and this my email address is how you make your PayPal payment to me. Do it on a friend's basis. So it's Karl@karlsandoval.com. So if you feel like donating that way, that's fine too. That's a one-time donation or whatever you feel. But you know, this all helps me, and I really appreciate the generosity and the financial support. So let's move on to another question. How long will you be putting, a viewer asked, how long will you be putting on these guitar tips? Because they seem to be helping me as I'm using them, and how many are there? Well, there are so many, I don't know how many there are. It's like for every part of the guitar, I have steps that I get involved with. I have tips that I use that I'll be posting. Some of them will come on all my social media. Some of them will just come on Patreon. Oh, by the way, on Patreon, the potential of me showing you how to build the original Sandoval.V is there. We'll see what lies ahead on the horizon. So stay tuned. Become a patron. And I think a lot of you, I've had a lot of comments about people wanting to know about that. So we'll see. It could very well be. But there's some other things that I want to do first. And it's just not a big priority for me right now at this time. But so, you know, these tips will keep coming. There'll be a variety of tips, which are fabrication related, guitar building related, whatever you want to call it, modification, customizing, whether it's painting, fretwork, network, woodwork, electronics, sharpening tools, adjusting tools, you know, how to use a machine, bandsaw, hand routers, Dremel drills, measuring. I mean, it's just endless. There's so much. So stay tuned on that, and I will get as many of these tips as I can, as fast as I can, to help you out. And they're there to help you out. These are tips that I have learned throughout my career. There are many of them, and let me tell you, it has not always been peachy creamy in doing guitar work. You know, things come up. But the good thing about it is, if you make a mistake, don't feel bad. Everybody makes mistakes. There are ways to correct errors that you do during a guitar build. So, you know, as you train more and more about guitar work, they start to become fewer and fewer and farther apart. Trust me, when you're first starting out, man, you might have an air that you get involved with every other time you're doing something. So hang in there. You can pursue it. You can do it. So let's move on to one more question, and then we'll call it a wrap. How many Sandoval.Vs have you built? That's the question. Actually, I honestly don't know, but it has been many. I've been building these guitars since, well, you can say 1979, but a resurgence occurred and it started to pick up in 1982. And unfortunately, this is when our beloved Randy Rhoads passed tragically, and I was very, very saddened. But what was I going to do? You know, I had so many people wanting this instrument, and as a matter of fact, the next guitar after I built Randy's, and then the next guitar that I built did not have the bow tie inlay, and it's floating out there somewhere. And then, you know, everybody started requesting the bow tie inlay, so I kind of went with it and started doing that. And at first, I never really kept a record of how many were sold. They weren't on a serial number basis. So what I did give out though was certificates of authenticity, and then there was original invoices. So beware, if somebody's trying to sell you a Sandoval.V, if it doesn't have paperwork, refuse buying it. I would not do it. I really would not do it, because you'll be spending thousands of dollars, no doubt, for something that's it wasn't even built by me. And unfortunately, I can't police the world, and there are many copycatters out there jumping on my bandwagon, trying to take credit. You know, obviously they're trying to build up their egos, and, well, you know, for whatever reason. Anyway, I don't know. I don't want to get into that. It just breaks my heart that it has to be done. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people regretting the amount of money that they've spent. And it'll never, never, ever be a Sandoval. Keep that in mind. It'll be a copy, an Asian copy. That just happens to be where they're made, somewhere in Asia, you know. You know, there's some people here in the States that are doing it and making a buck, and I see none of that money. They do. And it wasn't their idea. So it just hurts me to hear about that. And anytime I get somebody that wants oh, well, I bought a guitar, can you send me a certificate of authenticity? And flat out, no. Absolutely not. You're stuck. You've got something that you know nothing about. Hey, they want to play hardball, that's the way it is. So anyway, I honestly don't know how many that I have been doing some a serial number list now for a while. So I have some records, but as far as it being complete, and it's not. And there's going to be a lot of these guitars that I built that will have my name signed in any of the cavities or on the back or the face of the guitar, which is good, because I try to put it underneath it clear. Sometimes I haven't done that. So the best is, if you're going to buy one of these guitars that I've built in the past from someone, it's going to be high priced, no getting around that, and it will come with a certificate of authenticity, and it should also come with the original purchase receipt. If not, you're taking chances. I would say don't do it. Just contact me and have one made specifically for you. You know, just do that, and you'll be the wiser for that. So anyway, I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. I'll come up with another Q&A. I don't know when. They're just going to come sporadically. Check me out on all my social medias, and subscribe to Patreon, subscribe to YouTube. Check me up on Instagram. Check me out on Instagram and Facebook. My email, if you want to send me a text, is carl@karlsandoval.com. And I'm trying to get more involved with more social media, and I'm trying to upgrade and film better, just do everything better. It's just going to take me time. I'm really slow at doing this, but it will work. So I appreciate it, and God bless, and thank you so much. Until the next video, we've got a video coming up which will show me demonstrating how I'm routing the front cavities on the Star guitar. So stay tuned.